Hey, weirdos, I'm Ash.
And I'm Alaina.
And this is Morbid.
It is.
Yeah.
Hey, we're
What's
here.
up?
What's going on?
Hi, Dern.
Guess what?
What?
Next week is the beginning of 3 episodes a week, everybody. Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. You can expect Morbid.
Monday, Wednesday, Fridays.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome because Wondery's going to keep us on our shit. So we're going to have to do Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Yeah.
Schedules are coming. We've been promising it for 4 years, and now it's like boot to the ass time, and we're getting it.
I'm just picturing like an Excel spreadsheet on like a really fast steed, just being like, I'll be coming around the mountain when I come.
That's it. And you know what? I couldn't be happier because, one, you guys deserve it. You deserve the schedule that you can be like, cool, I'm getting it Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Yeah.
We're excited to give it to you, and it's going to make our lives, honestly, a lot easier because I thrive on a schedule, but I have not given myself that.
I thrive in pure chaos.
Yeah.
So this is going to be interesting for me.
True.
But it'll be good. It's always good to do things when you should.
Routine is good. You guys will be able to expect it. I think it's going to be really cool to do the 3 episodes a week because it's just going to be like really fun to really expand the content into like whatever realms we want to go to, you know? So in like, you know, the multi-parters are going to be able to be like
Bing,
really
bang, boom.
right after each other. I think this is really going to be awesome and we're excited about it. And that's going to be starting next week. So get ready. And again, if you are on Wondery Plus, you can have all those episodes a week early.
Mm-hmm. And if you are a patron, you got a 6-month trial of Wondery Plus
For free.
for free. So if you still want to become a patron,
You can. It's $1.
Get that. It's $1. And then you will also get 6 months free of Wondery Plus and get all of our episodes 1 week early.
But remember, no matter what, episodes are coming out. So you're not like missing episodes or anything.
We're actually doing extra this week so that there's no lag week.
Yeah,
for you
we
guys.
didn't want you guys to get a lag because that would suck. And that's not how we do things here.
Not who we are.
So we just wanted to let you guys know about that because that's going to be starting this week, which is really cool. Just means more content. That's all it is. Nothing else is changing. Just more cool shit. But we're excited. Oh, and merch is going to be coming out soon. That's another exciting thing. Like all of this cool shit is going to be happening. So look out for that. We will update you guys. You will obviously be the first to know. But let me tell you,
It's fucking rad.
Remember
when you guys wanted sweatpants?
just remember that.
Remember when you guys said more mugs?
More mugs, please.
Remember when you said, I want this thing I could put in my hair?
Remember?
I don't think many of you said that.
No, but you know what?
There's a thing you can put in your hair, okay?
And we've been working with Wondery really closely for weeks and weeks on this, and we're so excited, guys. I really think you're going to be excited. So just like keep an eye, keep an ear out. We'll let you know as soon as that's happening. Lots of cool stuff. But other than that, we're going to jump right into it today.
Woohoo!
I have an old-timey murder.
What?
I know. This one...
Old-timey?
I'm saying it's new. It's exciting for me.
It's
But
not.
This one is called the Bermondsey Horror. That is what it is known by.
Horror.
Horror. Did it sound like?
Yep.
Yeah, that's not what I said. Horror. Sorry.
Horror.
I don't know if it's like the way I talk or something that it probably came out that way.
No,
but
it's hard. I feel like we've said that before on Scream, like when we were like, we're going to have a horror discussion.
Horror. You know, ours are really hard for people from Massachusetts, so like just bear with us.
Yeah.
We don't do well with ours.
What's an R?
What's an R, kid?
What's an R anyway?
But let's talk about it.
Okay.
This is from the 1800s. We're going to talk about a woman named Marie de Roux. Isn't that a name?
That's a pretty name.
Marie de Roux.
De Roux.
She was born in 1821 in Switzerland, actually.
Ooh.
We don't know a ton about her because it was 1821. And, there was not a lot going on, apparently, with her. So she just kind of floated through.
She was just vibing.
Unfortunately, when she was a teenager, both her parents passed away.
Ooh.
Yeah. Don't know how because, again, not a lot of information.
She do it?
She ended up, though, who knows, really.
Oh,
but, yeah.
I was joking.
I was going to say, perhaps. But she moved to London after this because she was like, you know what? I want to get out of here. I got to start my life. So she became what was known as a domestic servant. So she became a maid of sorts to a woman named Lady Polk.
Okay.
And this was in a house that was referred to as Halden House, and it was in Exeter.
Ooh.
Exeter, Devon. It's hard to understand how the counties and like places work in England because it's different from over here.
I'm lost.
So hopefully you guys know what that is. I'm assuming if you're over there, you're like, yes or no.
No.
And I'm sorry if you're like, no, that's not how that works. But I'm trying. So she had a great time there. She was really good at her job. She liked it because she got to be involved in all like the luxurious ways of living.
We love it.
Even if it was on the fringes of it, she got to experience it. She became obsessed with living that lifestyle. Even though she was, not making a ton of money herself, she was able to live in the house. She got the experiences. And so she was like, I want to live this life. I don't ever want to live in poverty. That's my goal.
Okay. I mean, that's a fair goal.
It's a great goal, I guess. So in 1846, she was around 23 years old. She had been working for a while. She had gotten really good at it. Word had spread that she was really, because they talk.
Oh, yeah.
These ladies of the households, they talk.
High society and all that.
Yeah. So word got around that she was really good at her job. She was also looking to kind of move on. So she moved on to work at another home for somebody else. She now worked for Lady Blantyre. Now, Lady Blantyre was actually the lady of Stafford House. And this was one of the most prestigious and extravagant homes in London at the time.
Okay.
And
these
gorgeous.
are just like houses.
Like estates.
That's wild. Just nuts.
And these were, they were described as covered in marble and golds and just the most extravagant and luxurious thing ever.
I love it.
Now, this particular move for her was a huge jump up in society. This was like a giant move. It was not lateral. This was very much a promotion. She was still going to be, a domestic servant in the home, but she was at the home that was now run by the daughter of a duchess, which was a big deal.
I've been watching Bridgerton. I know what that means.
You know what that is. So she had the fucking Queen of England coming over for tea at that house.
Damn.
That's how big a deal this place was.
I mean, she's a duchess.
She's a duchess. She's the daughter of a duchess. So she loved it. Marie did. She loved it. She loved even just being attached to this kind of rich and luxurious lifestyle. She would meet all these royals and dignitaries, and she started believing, I'm part of this society.
Uh-oh.
She was obsessed with it and becoming more and more obsessed with it. They gave her dresses to wear for certain events because she wanted all of her staff presentable. Mm-hmm. So she would get these fancy dresses. She got to go on fancy trips with her. It was honestly it was a great job to Marie.
And I feel like it just wasn't enough for Marie.
It never is.
I'm getting that feeling.
You're getting that feeling. It never is. So in 1846, that's when she went over to work for Lady Blantyre. That same year, she actually accompanied Lady Blantyre on a boat trip to France.
Ooh.
This was going to be a big trip. She was asked to be the maid on this trip because she was that good at her job and also because she spoke French.
Oh, so
she was going to be a help. Yeah, so she's going to be a big help on this trip. She was super excited that she was chosen. So they're on the boat on the way there. Obviously, it's a long boat trip anywhere. Back then, you were just you were in for the long haul. So she's on the boat and she strikes up a conversation with a man.
Oh, a handsome man?
Another passenger. A man named Patrick O'Connor.
Irish.
How could you tell?
The O.
He tells Marie that he is hailing from County Tipperary in Ireland. And girl, she was smitten.
Oh, hell yeah. He's an Irishman.
Also, he was smitten. They were both smitten.
Okay.
That accent, come on.
I mean,
come on.
Undeniable.
Now, they chatted the entire way over. And soon she found out that he was a customs duty collector at the London docks. but he was also making extra money as a smuggler or a moneylender of sorts, which is like a whole shady business, but he was extraordinarily wealthy because of it. He was 50 years old, which makes him quite a bit older than her because she was 23 at the time.
Which was like such a thing back then.
But like, all fine, whatever you want to do. And again, he was super wealthy, which was very attractive.
Super
to Marie.
wealthy, super hot, has an accent. What's wrong with
What
the
else
guy?
can you ask for? And they just couldn't tear themselves away from each other during this boat trip. They just were talking. By the end of the boat trip, they had made plans to meet up again with each other when they both arrived back in London.
Ooh.
And remember, like, this was going to be a while because, like, they're both going to France for different reasons. They're both going to be coming back at different times. Boat trips are long.
Yeah.
There was no cell phones to just text each other and be like, hey, I'm back in London. What's up?
Imagine the excitement, though, like the whole time she was in France. Like, oh, when I get back to London, I'm gonna see Patrick
I'm going to go out
somehow.
with Patrick.
Like, so cute.
Yeah.
Patrick just reminds me of Schitt's Creek now.
Right? And like, Patrick is, like, where it's at.
Yeah.
So
And he looks so Irish. That's all I'm picturing.
he does. There you go. Now, they had dinner. And when they got back to London, they were able to meet up. And it was a long time. Like, it was a long time before they could meet up. So, like, I'm sure it was like the excitement was just everywhere. So they had their dinner and it was right back. It was right back. Full-blown romance. But it was tricky, though. Because remember, like I just said, it had been a while between the France trip. They had gotten back at different times. And between that, like, that whole interim time, she had started seeing someone else.
She's playing the field. I respect it.
No, because there was like months in between.
Yeah.
This. So while she's waiting, you know, she's not technically, you know, dating anyone.
she just
like she
met
can
the
see
dude.
who she wants. And she's not like engaged yet or anything. She's
No.
just seeing a man named Frederic Manning.
Okay. It was a night like any other. We ate some dinner. We chatted for a bit about work. Everything seemed normal, and then suddenly I was gone. But don't even worry, guys. I was just scoring some quality time with Best Fiends. Others might wonder about your mysterious disappearances, but if you're having as much fun with Best Fiends as I am, it's really no secret why you sneak off to play. I am obsessed with Best Fiends. Since the last time we've spoken, I have gone up a few levels. I am currently on 2503 and killing it. I have the most beautiful fiends. I have the most fun with all the challenges where like I get extra golden keys and stuff to unlock even more fiends. And guess what? I think that you're going to have fun playing Best Fiends too, because Best Fiends is a free to download mobile puzzle game with thousands of exciting levels for new adventures and challenges at every time that you play. There are dozens of unique fiends to collect, and you can customize your team of fiends to defeat the menacing slugs. They grossed me out so much. You can power up your favorite fiends to new levels for even more powerful skills, and you just watch them transform as they get stronger. It's kind of like watching your kid get good at a sport, except I don't have kids. With offline play, you never ever have to be stranded without fun, even if you lose your internet connection. You're going up to like, I don't know, the lake, the cabin in the woods to play Best Fiends. That's great. You'll still be able to play. And there's brand new events and challenges that pop up all year round. So you've always got a chance to earn exclusive in-game items, characters, and rewards. Usually the challenges too, like if there's a holiday coming up, they'll be holiday themed and they always do such a fun job with it. So download your new favorite getaway, Best Fiends, for free today on the App Store or Google Play. You'll even get $5 worth of in-game rewards when you reach level 5. That's friends without the R, Best Fiends.
Now, Frederic Manning was a guard on the railway at the time, but he was also someone who had some, like, shady business as well, because
She loved a shady fella.
she loved a shady fellow. I feel back then that there was a lot of shady fellows, so it's like
Yes.
you could like throw a rock and hit like 10.
Yeah.
But he was a suspected robber.
Oh, okay.
So he had like a legitimate job, and then also people were like, I'm pretty sure he robs places.
He also has a side hustle. It's just not really respectable.
Just not a great side hustle. He was suspected of robbing a train that he was actually on his railway that he worked on.
Convenience.
So
Convenience is key.
So, like,
France.
I love that Frederic.
I meant to say I was going to say like Frank, and then I said
or like
France.
Friends and Frederic, maybe France.
Sure.
I get it.
Thanks for that.
I was gonna help you out. No. So So while he's like, possibly a robber on the railway that he also works on, he's telling Marie, you know what? I have an inheritance that's about to hit.
No, you
He's saying, my father died in 1845, which was the year before. And he said his mother was kind of given everything in his will, but his mother was going to be transferring ownership of a huge property to him.
Sure.
And he was like, I promise this. We're just going through the whole motions.
No, you're not.
It's all going to happen. It's all happening. Sheena Shea, let's go. Yes. So she's like, wow, that's great. You're robbing places, so you're getting money. That's fun.
Always good.
Because Marie's all she's concerned about is money.
Money.
That's what she's looking for.
I don't care where you got it. You have it.
And you know what? At this point, she's dating these two men. They both have their pros. They both have their cons at this point. And both have money. And both have jobs to boot. So it's like, well, you know what? She's living. Both were also kind of shady. But, it's only a few, I think it was only a couple of weeks. And then Frederic proposes. Because, it's 18.
Oh, that's true.
Everybody's just like, hey,
you're cute.
You want to get married? It's literally just like, hey, cool, we've gone out once.
I was actually thinking that watching Bridgerton the other day. Because they dance a couple times and then they're like, would you wed my life?
Would you wed my life? And then that's how they ask.
I really wish that too. Great. But then it's just and then you spend eternity together because you're not even allowed to get divorced.
That's why most of them hated each other, because they didn't know each other to begin with. And then they would suddenly be living with each other and be like, wow, you're insufferable.
Imagine you go on one date with someone and you're like, well, we're betrothed.
Imagine one dance and then it's like, well, that's that.
That sucks.
No, thank you.
What a life.
So Frederic proposes. So Marie is like, cool. Hold on a sec. And then she's like, hey, Patrick, this guy just proposed over here. And Patrick's like, wait a fucking second. I was going to propose. That asshole proposed before me. Excuse me.
What?
So Patrick is like, wed me. So he proposes.
Patrick is a pick me guy.
So she's got to choose.
Yeah.
And she's like, we got pros, we got cons here. We got this guy who is older and wealthy, but he's obviously wealthy due to shady dealings. He's got a job though.
But they're both shady dealings.
We got this younger guy. I think Frederic was only within a year of her.
Oh, okay.
Age-wise.
Sure.
So he's got this guy that's more my age.
He's going to last longer.
He's got a job. He's still doing some shady things, but he's got that fucking inheritance coming.
Right.
That's what she was looking for. She was like, inheritance.
She loves it.
So she chose Frederic. She said yes to Frederic, which I immediately was like, wrong choice.
Yeah.
I hadn't even read this full thing yet, this whole case. And as soon as I read that she chose Frederic, I was like, ooh, no.
Yeah, I got a wave of disappointment, even though I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You always pick Patrick. When faced with a Patrick, you always pick Patrick.
You pick Patrick O'Connor.
Yeah.
You pick him.
Why wouldn't you?
But she didn't.
And here's the thing. It's yeah, sure, he's got this inheritance coming. It's coming. You don't know if is it going to arrive? Is it going to get lost in the mail? Does it exist?
He's a steady income.
He's got it locked and loaded.
Exactly. And you guys fell in love in a really cute way.
And it was kismet,
Yeah, it was a meet cute. So,
right.
I don't know.
Better story.
Unfortunately, she and Frederic were married May 27th, 1847. They got married at St. James Church in Piccadilly, London.
Oh, do you remember the Piccadilly pub?
I hated that place.
Oh, what the fuck is wrong with you? I loved the Piccadilly pub.
Face.
The Piccadilly pub, I used to request to go there for dinner.
I never liked any of the food there or the vibes.
I mean, I'm trash, so
I hated the food and the vibes there.
Oh, I loved the vibe.
No,
you got a cute little cup to drink your meal out of, and
to drink your meal out of?
No, I meant your drink.
See why I didn't like it?
Yeah, no. They didn't give you your meal in a cup.
See why I did not like
Their menus had fun games.
Yeah, I was never into the Piccadilly pub. I don't know what it was.
You have a taste for the finer things in life, Marie.
Apparently. Just call me. No, don't call me Marie.
No, I'm like, is that an insult?
Trust me, it's an insult. Now, they get married. Yay. Good for them.
Yeah.
Frederic then immediately quits his job. He quit his job as a guard on the railway.
What?
And he quit his job, and it was not a good, hey, I'm putting in my 2 weeks notice kind of thing. It was a bad, I think there was the rumors got around that he was robbing
he was the
place,
robber.
and it was a bad split between him and his job.
Does he think that Marie is going to support him on her income?
Well, then he did get a new job. He got a new job as a manager of the White Hart pub in Taunton.
Oh.
Not Taunton in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
But Marie, she was like, okay, cool. Now, at this time as well, Marie found out that the inheritance thing was bullshit.
Shocking.
Yeah,
I know. I'm so surprised.
I know. We're all like, what? What a plot twist.
Oh my goodness.
No one saw that coming. Yeah, it was bullshit. It was never going to come. It was never coming.
He just trapped her.
He totally bullshitted her. Now, he also was drinking heavily.
Oh,
and she did not realize...
Loser.
Yeah, she did not realize that she was marrying a full-blown alcoholic who was now running a pub and was running it into the ground because he was just drinking all of the profits away.
Oh my.
And it was also, apparently he was also like flirting with all the ladies at the pub. It was just like a bad situation. She chose badly. Like it was a bad choice.
This is a predicament with a capital P.
It really is. So they're trying to make it work. She's trying to be like, okay, I made this decision. I got to go with it.
That sucks.
So they end up moving away from Taunton area and they moved to Bermondsey in London. And they found a home at 3 Miniver Place. And they were renting this home. Now, but the marriage is not getting better.
No.
They're moving away from the pub. They're trying to do everything, but it's not getting better. Frederic is still a full-blown alcoholic and like not a nice drinker. Like he's a dick.
Not a happy
now,
drunk.
He's still drinking super heavily. They weren't managing the money. The inheritance isn't coming, so they're struggling now. It's just bad. It's
and
bad
she
all
must have
around.
been like, you lied to me.
You lied to me. Like this whole thing began on a lie.
This is all a sham.
This whole thing began with two very dishonest and very not... Like, the way they went into this marriage was not like love and companionship. It was like money.
Yeah.
On both ends.
Right.
So it was just bad. So then Patrick comes back into the picture.
Okay.
And Patrick wrote her because they started communicating again. And Patrick wrote her a letter and said he always loved her. He always would. And he wished it was him who she had chosen.
I bet she wished that too.
So a torrid love affair began.
Ooh,
because
spicy.
of course... That's going to draw her in. She's very unhappy in her marriage. It's happening. And, I feel like in the 1800s, it was just like torrid love affairs everywhere.
Yeah, because you couldn't get unmarried.
No, so you just kept having torrid love affairs.
Right.
That was just like the way of the world. Now, Frederic knew these two were friends still. Like they had not broken off contact even when Frederic and her had gotten married. Mm-hmm. Like he knew about this. In fact, Patrick would come and have dinner with them often. Like the three of them would have dinner.
Awkward.
We still don't know if there was like... if he knew that there was a sexual aspect to this affair going on, or if he was ignoring it, or if he was completely clueless and just thought that they were still friends. No matter what, it was a very strange and complex situation for sure.
Very much so.
And there's like rumors that later come down the line that I'll talk about that are like wild.
I mean, like wildly spicy.
Yeah, very spicy.
Oh.
Now, in July 1849, Marie orders out of nowhere and receives delivery of, there's like record of this, at her home, a massive amount of lime.
Oh, that's not good.
This is like a random delivery.
No, it's not.
No, and remember...
this is a preparation.
Yeah, this is no good. And remember, this is, 1849? This is only a couple years after marriage. Now, August 8th, 1949, so the following month, Marie orders and receives at her home a giant shovel.
Bye, Frederic. See you later.
Now, so then Marie and apparently Frederic use this shovel to dig a giant hole in their kitchen floor.
Wait, Marie and Frederic?
Yup. What are they doing?
They better not be coming.
What are they doing?
They better not be coming for Patrick.
Now they dug this hole, and people who came to the home like saw this at one point and were like, "What's that about?" And they're like, "Oh, we're just like rearranging the flagstone on the kitchen floor, so we had to dig to like, kind of make it more structurally sound because one of them was wobbly,
6 feet down,
So they put the flagstone back on top of this hole, and like everybody was like, "All right, cool. I guess that's what that is." Now, that same day, August 8th, 1949, Patrick O'Connor received an invitation from Marie to have dinner at the Manning home with both her and Frederic. He went.
Just like he always would.
He would never have any reason to think anything different. But he unexpectedly brought a friend with him. He brought a friend named Pierce Walsh, who he called Walshy.
Cute.
Walshy had helped Patrick get payment from a loan recently, like a big payout. Mm-hmm. And the two of them were in a celebratory mood. So they were like, let's hang together.
All right, cool.
So he brought him along. They had a normal meal. Everything was fine. When they left, Marie and Frederic were pissed because they wanted Patrick to come by themselves. I wonder why. Why did they want Patrick to come alone?
Well, they have lime and I always say lime. They have lye and they have a 6-foot hole in their kitchen floor.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's because they want Patrick for his money.
I don't know. So Marie decides to use her wiles. She got Patrick alone for a moment during this dinner. She brings him aside and she tells him, I was really looking forward to an evening with just you coming. Mm-hmm. And she says, but you brought your friend. That really put me off. I'm very upset about it. And he was very apologetic.
Aww.
And he offered to come the next night alone. So he was like, then we can have an evening together. And he's like, I'm sorry. I was just celebrating. I was excited.
Patrick, don't be sorry.
Yeah. So the next evening,
No.
he's coming to dinner again, but this time he's coming by himself.
Don't.
So he comes, everything's normal, like they normally do. But when it comes time to eat dinner, Marie tells Patrick, you have to go wash your hands. You've been at the dock all day. Go wash your hands for dinner. And he's like, all right. So Patrick is, of course, down to be clean for Marie. So he goes to the sink, he's washing up. He's finishing, that second time singing happy birthday when you're supposed to really get those germs off, I'm sure. Because back then, we'll talk about it, things were so sanitary. So I'm sure he was definitely washing his hands for that long.
Yeah, he's definitely getting the finger tips
Yeah, for
too.
sure. That's a heavy dose of sarcasm in case you couldn't tell. But as he's doing this, Marie creeps up behind his ass and literally shoots him in the back of the head with a revolver.
Oh my God, and this is a man that she once loved.
Yes.
I don't think she knows what love is.
No, she does not. Execution at point blank range to the back of the head.
That's insane.
He fell to the floor and just started convulsing. He did not die.
Oh.
So Frederic comes in with a crowbar and beats the hell out of him until he was dead on their floor.
God.
He hit him at least 17 times in the head with a crowbar.
Oh my God.
Yeah. They then threw his body into that hole they dug into the middle of their fucking kitchen floor and covered it with lime they purchased. Then they buried Patrick and they put the flagstone just right back over it and sealed it off.
And they're just gonna walk throughout their kitchen day to day?
Oh yeah, and after that, they sat and had whiskey together in the kitchen.
What the fuck?
Yep. That's the thing. When I was reading this, I did not see it coming that Patrick was the one that was going to go down. I thought Patrick and her were going to kill Frederic.
That's what I thought
but
you
I
were
was
gonna say.
Whoa. So yeah, so the next day, Marie went to where Patrick O'Connor had been living, and she convinced his landlady to give her the keys to his place.
What?
She had been there before because of fair.
Of course.
And this landlady was said to despise her.
Oh.
But she allowed it anyways because she was like, I guess, Patrick says it's fine. And she went through everything in Patrick's home. She found money, jewelry, railway shares that Patrick owned, and she stole it all.
Oh my God.
She's
so cold.
Oh, and she was so money hungry that she actually went back the next day to make sure she didn't miss anything to steal.
This is not a human being. This
No.
is a full-blown monster.
And the plan was going to be for Frederic to go sell those shares under Patrick's name and collect the wealth before anything questioned anybody.
And you don't think nobody's going to question you when all of a sudden you go from living you do such a big class jump?
Yeah,
Nobody's
exactly.
going to notice that?
And people love Patrick. He has
Right.
friends and clients, and he has people who know him.
Yeah.
He's not just some random guy that nobody's going to give a shit. Hell, he showed up the day before with his friend.
I was
You
just
don't
gonna
think
say.
Walshy's going to wonder where he is?
And they had just settled a big deal, so that's telling.
Exactly. Well, it was pretty immediately after they killed him that people started searching for Patrick.
Good.
Nobody was waiting very long to be like, what the fuck?
Because why would you?
And like I said, Pierce Walsh came to the Manning household asking about him and said, did he come to dinner at your home the Thursday after we came to dinner, that next day? And Marie was like, no, he never came to dinner that night.
Liar.
And Walshy was like, that's weird. Because he said, I've been talking to people because I'm worried about Patrick. And he said, I went to the dock. And he said, everyone at the docks where he was working on Thursday said that he told them he was on his way to your house for dinner that night.
Yeah, so
And then they said,
don't lie to me.
oh yeah. And then he was like, and also I talked to people on London Bridge who were working there. And they said, on the way to your house on London Bridge, he told people I'm on my way to the Mannings for dinner.
Wow.
So he was like, people know
course
that he
they
was
do.
coming here. So he was like, do you want to, change that up a little bit? And she was like, oh, well, no, he never came. And she was like, but I did invite him. He was supposed to come, but he never showed up. And he was like, well, that's not what you said initially, but okay.
So you're being shady, Marie.
So immediately everyone is like, this is suspicious, but okay.
What's the deal?
Now, friends of Patrick's also spoke to his landlady because they're trying to find him.
Yeah.
They gave a shit about him. And landlady reveals, well, Marie Manning came to the home and asked for the keys twice, back to back, after he went missing. And she came in here and was in here for a while. That's pretty damning. So they were like, okay. So after speaking with Marie and seeing that she lied about him coming to dinner, and the night when when they had witnesses who told them that, or who he told where he was on his way to their home for dinner, and talking to the lady, the landlady saying Marie was there twice after he went missing, they were like, okay, we have enough to call the police and say something shady about these people.
Like, please look into them.
This wasn't just like a bunch of random collection of, like, this is like everything is pointing to, like, the landlady, Marie was here. She was here twice. The people at London Bridge, yeah, he was on the way to the Mannings. People at the docks, he was on the way to the Mannings.
Right.
What else can you say? So he calls the Metropolitan Police, tells them everything. The Metropolitan Police were actually like very new at this time. I think they were only like 20 years old at this point, too. It was just interesting. Now, soon, Frederic and Marie start turning on each other.
I knew that was going to happen.
Because remember, they didn't like each other to begin with.
No.
I don't know why they thought killing her lover was going to like bring them together in any way, shape, or form. They fucking hated each other. They're both shitty people.
Yeah.
What did you think was going to happen here? So they're turning on each other. And now, again, they have his railway shares because that's basically what they have killed him for. But shit is not going to go smoothly. They think this is just going to be like, hey, I'm Patrick O'Connor, you're going to say with your English accent on the phone. And like try to sell his shares and nobody's going to question it. So Marie tells Frederic, you know what? We got to get out of here. We got to get out of town. So she's like, you need to go and you need to sell the furniture in our house so we can get more money, so we can take these shares and run the fuck out of here.
It's like, you don't think anybody is going to be like, hey, they're selling all their furniture, police, maybe head down there.
No, she's like, let's sell everything we got, get the money, and let's get the fuck out of here. So he goes. And while he's gone, she steals all the railway shares, all the valuable shit, and she dips before Frederic gets back.
Wow, she just doesn't give a shit about anybody.
She cares about Marie. Yeah. Marie only. So she fucked him over. And he left on his own after that as well. As soon as he came back and saw that she had taken everything, he was like,
well, shit.
He was like, well, now I have to go. So he got out of there. So they're now taking off in separate directions.
On the run.
On the run in two totally separate worlds.
Right.
Which is like bad because now you're spreading your shit everywhere instead of staying together. Mm-hmm. Bad. So shortly afterwards, on August 17th, this was only like days after, the police come knocking at the Manning's house. They went into the home after the landlady allowed them in, and it was clear that the Mannings had left the place in a very big hurry. They took most of their stuff, but what was left was in complete disarray. It's like they had just ransacked and left.
Because they very much did.
Because they did. So they're going through the house. They're trying to find anything. They soon make their way into the kitchen. They were struck with the condition of the floor. It was so clean. No flagstone floor was this clean and tidy.
Girl.
And it's not like it matched the rest of the home, which wasn't like a fucking pigsty, but it wasn't like House Beautiful either.
Yeah.
Like it was
just a very normal house.
Yeah, this is like very much like this was cleaned in particular. So this is pretty big for the police at this time because, again, they're a very young police force, and they notice this. They look closer, and it appears that one flagstone in particular, the edges were damp. And they were like, this is weird. It looks like it wasn't properly sealed like the rest of them, or that it was recently sealed, and the rest of them were sealed a long time ago.
Right.
So they're like, So they stick something in there. They like, use like some kind of sharp instrument to kind of cut away that seal, and they kind of just hoist it up, and they immediately see a human toe sticking out of the dirt.
Oh my goodness.
When they uncovered this, they see that it was Patrick O'Connor. His body was face down in the dirt. He was naked, so they had stripped him. And his feet were hog-tied to his thighs.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. His hands were tied behind his back. And they were able to identify him by his dentures, which they left in like stupid idiots.
Okay.
Now, the best thing about this, I was telling John this, and he was like, this is amazing. So I was watching this like documentary about this, and there were all these like older British historians that were talking about this case. This particular point, they found fucking hilarious, and I couldn't stop laughing because they were all, it's all these older historian like British men being like, these fucking stupid potatoes didn't take out his fucking teeth. Like, they were just like, what idiots, like who does that, who just leaves fake teeth in this dead body for them to find. Like, they were, and every time they would go to another guy, he would be like laughing hysterically about it, and I was like, wow. I was like, the British are the cheekiest motherfuckers.
Oh, and I love that adjective.
I appreciate it so hard because they were like, these fucking dummies didn't take his teeth out. Who wouldn't think to do that? And I'm like, I love that you're so appalled by that.
I would not think to take somebody's teeth out. I mean, I wouldn't think to murder someone, so
also,
I guess I'd never get there.
This was in the 1840s. I don't think that like the first thing on these like first of all, they're dummies anyways. But they're like burying him in their actual floor.
Right.
But like, I don't think
in their actual
kitchen
not
floor.
The figurative floor.
No, like nowhere else. They're not taking him into the woods or something, just like in the floor.
Right.
They didn't want to do any
That'll
work.
do.
And it's like, so you think these dummies are going to be like, we should probably take his fake teeth out because you never know when dental technology could advance in the next year or so,
Right.
and they could identify him through those. They're not thinking that.
Of course they're not.
They aren't thinking that. They're thinking that lime is going to take care of everything. That's all they were thinking about. They're idiots. But I could not stop laughing at how fucking funny these older British historians found this particular point.
I love that.
They were just like ripping on him. Like it was like a Comedy Central roast. It was amazing.
Anytime I could do like a British case, I feel like it's always interesting because the humor
Is wonderful.
Yeah.
It really is. So now they're looking at the Mannings, obviously, who they're like, okay, we now know
that they did this.
that this happened, but they don't know that they're on the run separately.
Right.
They think they're on the run together.
Of course they do, because why wouldn't they be?
So Home Secretary Sir George Grey offered a £100 reward for any information leading to their capture. Their descriptions were released, drawings were released of them, descriptions of the valuables that they had stolen were published. The public was on the case along with the detectives. This was like a huge thing. So now they bring Scotland Yard onto this case.
I knew it was coming.
You got to bring Scotland Yard.
Of course you do. Who else are you going to call?
They find out, Scotland Yard is like on it, and they find out from a cab driver who saw their descriptions in the paper because it was really smart of them to release their descriptions, the drawings of them, everything like that, and their names for that matter. Mm-hmm. They find out from a cab driver that he had driven a woman matching Marie's description to catch a train to Scotland.
Believable.
Yep. And she had told him that she was headed for Edinburgh. Now, they follow this and find out that a woman matching her description did indeed catch a 6:15 a.m. train to Edinburgh that day and was doing so under the name Mrs. Smith. Now, witnesses who saw her said she was acting very strange. She was very nervous, acting very off, dropping shit, like just acting like something was wrong. Then following that lead, they find out that some luggage was seen in Edinburgh at a train station, and it was with a woman whose description matched Marie's perfectly. And it also had the tag Mrs. Smith on it. So these Scotland Yard baddies now use the brand new system of telegraph to telegraph up to Edinburgh, and the Edinburgh detectives were able to track down Marie under the fake name she was using there.
Wow, this is iconic. Also, the fake name she decided upon was Mrs. Smith.
Yeah.
Really, girlfriend?
Yeah.
Mastermind.
Not a lot of neurons firing up there.
None.
They also caught her while she was in the process of trying to sell the fucking railway shares in Edinburgh.
Stop it.
She was living in a fancy-ass hotel because she had sold some of the stuff.
Right.
And they arrested her and brought her right back to London. When they searched her possessions, she was holding all of Patrick's railway shares. And now this was a huge milestone for police work at this time. The Metropolitan Police, like I said, had only been around for like 20 years.
Right.
The electric telegraph was brand new as well. And it had been invented around 1837. So this was all new. They also were breaking barriers by using leads from boat records and railway records for this case, which was like a step forward for police work.
Of course, yeah.
And the way that all the leads lined up and they were able to use all that was like a huge groundbreaking case.
Yeah.
Now, so she was brought right back to London. Frederic was found pretty quickly as well.
Shocking.
He had caught a boat to the island of Jersey and was just hiding out there. He had been hanging in St. Helier, Jersey, and was drinking like a fish again. He had run into someone he knew from London there, and that old friend called police because they saw the murder news in the papers. And also someone used the new telegraph system to let detectives in Scotland Yard know that they saw Frederic on a steamer making his way to the islands.
Wow. These dinguses just like got away for like a minute and a half.
And he was even stupider because he acted like a dick to someone who just asked him for directions on the way there. And that person remembered his description in the paper and they called police as well and were like, this asshole wouldn't even give me directions.
The ultimate revenge.
Yeah. So he got scared by that old friend. When he ran into that old friend, he was like, they're going to remember me.
Yeah.
And like, that's going to be a problem. And so he had actually run to St. Lawrence, Jersey at this time. He's just like running around these islands.
I'm just picturing, he's Forrest Gumping it
He
everywhere.
literally is. He spent his time getting even drunker and causing a lot more people to notice him because he was like causing trouble.
I love that their motto was be so suspicious, be so suspicious.
The most conspicuous people you will ever meet. Meanwhile, the entire time that this is happening, that he's like running around these islands, like causing havoc, but thinking he's one step ahead of the police.
Yeah.
The police were on the island the entire time just following his movements.
Stop.
It was like good police work. And they also were shocked that he didn't even attempt to leave knowing that they were looking for him.
That's the other thing. I was waiting for you to say, like, and then he left.
No, he was just hopping around the islands.
Wow.
Now, the Telegraph from the newspaper describing his apprehension said this, because they immediately apprehended him on the island.
Of course.
It said, quote, "The Southwestern Company's steamer courier has just arrived here, bringing intelligence of the arrest of Frederic George Manning last night at Jersey on the charge of murdering O'Connor. Manning was apprehended whilst in bed at 9:30 at night."
Amazing. I love that they waited.
Yep, at a public house in St. Heliers. But the chief of police of the island, in conjunction with officers Langley and Lockyer, officers of the Metropolitan Detective Police. So when he was found there by police, he admitted everything.
Of course he did.
Everything. He said he beat Patrick O'Connor over the head with a crowbar, but he said Marie shot him in the back of the head. He said, quote, "I never liked him, so I battered his head with a ripping chisel."
That's not anything that
And
you
it's
can
like,
do,
oh,
sir.
okay. He apparently also asked if Marie was arrested, like immediately, and was pleased when they told him that she had been arrested. He had said, quote, "Has the wretch been taken?"
The wretch.
Has the wretch been taken? And when they said yeah, he said, quote, "I'm glad of it. It will save my life."
What? This is the other
Marriage.
thing. Yeah, marriage, for real. I'm like, girl, you should have just married. I mean, like, you don't deserve Patrick, so
No.
I'm glad you didn't. But you should have just married Patrick and, like, avoided all of this.
Idiot.
It's your fault that you
They're all
married
idiots.
the other stupid one.
Frederic and her are the biggest idiots.
They are.
Now, he kept saying that she deserved it. He was telling the police, like, she deserves it because she was the real perpetrator here. Even though he had bashed O'Connor's head in 17 times, that's fine. Like, she was the bad one.
You deserve it, too.
I'm like, yeah, she's bad, too. You're also a shitbag.
Yeah, equal.
He was also pissed that she had left him and took the money. So he was like, I'm pissed, which is like, you're also not helping your case of pretending you had nothing to do with this because you're pissed at her for abandoning you and taking the money.
Right.
Now, in the Telegraph, it explains his confession as well. It says, quote, "Manning confessed his guilt to the officers upon his apprehension, adding that he was instigated to the deed by his wife and affirming that Mrs. Manning fired the pistol and shot at the unfortunate Mr. O'Connor. Manning, moreover, stated that it was his intention to have surrendered on Wednesday if he had not been apprehended."
Yeah, totally. If you guys didn't get me today, I was totally going to surrender tomorrow.
He was like, I was just going to hit the pub one more time.
Yeah,
and
one
then I
last
was going to
drink.
be out of here and I would have shown up and confessed the whole thing.
should have just given me a second.
But like, good on you guys for getting me.
Yeah,
you know?
great job, guys.
But I was going to do it anyways, so it's fine. Okay, Frederic.
Dingus.
Now, both of them were locked up in Newgate Prison. Frederic requested while sitting in jail on murder charges that a guard give him a pipe and some smoking tobacco.
No.
And they were like, no.
Thanks, though.
Thank you for asking that, though, you fucking idiot. Now, from appearances, guards and those who saw him in jail said it was obvious that he was very addicted to alcohol because now without it, he was very pale and very sick.
Ooh.
Which I'm like, he could have died. Like, it's actually crazy that he didn't.
Yeah.
Now, because it sounds like he was very addicted.
Of course.
Now, immediately, this is when the Bermondsey Horror title came out, like through all the newspapers. This is what this was called. And it's still known of that today. Now, everyone went nuts over this story. And of course, Marie was the one that they really honed in on because it's usually the woman that they hone in on in these cases. She's a terrible piece of shit, but also Frederic was a terrible piece of shit as well.
They're equal pieces of shit.
Now, the trial was at Old Bailey on October 25th, 1849. Witnesses were brought up to identify them both. Now, what I found interesting, I watched something called Murder Maps on this. It's a really, like, crazy show that, like, goes through, like, old-timey murders, and it, like, maps it out for you.
Cool.
It's cool. And they were talking about how at Old Bailey, these trials would only last, like minutes.
Oh,
like,
wow.
they were quick, but this one lasted longer. But I just had no idea that these trials were so quick there.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
I had never heard that.
So witnesses were brought up to identify them both, and the superintendent of the Edinburgh Police was one of the witnesses. He was Richard John Moxey. He stated on the stand that it was Marie who was in Scotland when he questioned her about the whereabouts of her husband. She had told him her name was Mrs. Smith. She had run from her cruel, abusive husband, Frederic, because he drank, and she worried that he would murder her. That's why she was in Edinburgh, she said.
Oh.
He also said that she just ran her fucking mouth once everything came out and she was being arrested. She started talking about how Patrick O'Connor was the kindest man she knew, and he acted as a father to her. Remember, they were fucking on the regular, guys. Like,
Yeah.
what? Why are you saying he acted like a father to you? That's weird.
That's weird. She definitely was saying it to be like...
She was trying to come off more innocent, like this was a father relationship.
If she says that she's having an affair with him, they're gonna...
It gets spicier.
Right.
It's the salaciousness of it all, exactly.
Yes.
Now, this is when she said he was invited to dinner that day, but he never came. And she had gone to his home afterwards. She was like, yes, of course, the landlady is right. I went to his home. And she said, but I was just looking for him. I went to his home to see where he was.
And then did she say, it's just so crazy that he ended up in my floorboards?
Yeah, it's wild.
I didn't check there.
Yeah, I would have looked there had I known, but I went to his house. Now, 2 clerks testified that Frederic Manning was the man who had called under the name Patrick O'Connor to cash out some of his railway stocks. They were like stockbroker clerks.
Yeah.
Now, side note to this, at the time, cholera was rampant at this time in London.
Gross.
One witness testified on the Friday that Frederic called pretending to be Patrick, and then that witness had died by Saturday from cholera.
Oh my goodness.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
The second clerk got it and died by Sunday.
Jesus.
So they testified on a Friday. Both were dead by Sunday of cholera.
Whoa.
Now, cholera, in case you don't know, it causes like severe dehydration from vomiting and diarrhea. Ooh. It's like usually from shitty drinking water.
Oh, okay.
Now, just as a little side note, because this was interesting to me, because I was like, excuse me, 2 witnesses died within a weekend of testifying? That's how bad this was?
Right.
There was a cholera outbreak that lasted 2 years, starting the year before this in 1948. And it was said to be the worst outbreak in the city's history.
Wow.
So while this was going on, it was like the worst outbreak.
So they're trying to deal with that, and they're trying to get, like,
trying
witnesses.
to like keep people alive.
Right.
In England and Wales, over 14,000 people died.
Oh my gosh.
During this outbreak. And a guy named Edwin Chadwick was a social reformer at the time. And he was like, guys, there is clearly a link between sanitation and disease and cholera. And in 1842, he had actually wrote about this in his publication, The Sanitary Conditions of the Laboring Population. He was discussing life expectancy in relation to disease and living conditions in it. And this led to the 1948 Public Health Act that appointed Edwin as the first director of the General Board of Health because of his findings and research.
Get it? Edwin.
Now, he later actually became the sanitary commissioner of London.
Oh,
from
shit.
this. But in fact, at the time, newspapers were saying cholera was actually the best sanitary reformer because it did inspire people to try to live in the cleanest conditions they could at the time.
Okay.
Because it wasn't always within everybody's control at the time,
Right.
considering what was going on. But unfortunately, only very limited improvements were actually made to ventilation and drainage in the city after he became commissioner. He tried, but he wasn't able to do a whole lot. So actually, because of the changes, more runoff went into the River Thames, which was like the main supply, and further contaminated the drinking water, which led to more of an outbreak. And again, the worst outbreak in the city's history in those 2 years, starting in 1948.
Yikes.
So that was just like an interesting side note of what was going on at the time. Shit was bad. So back to the trial. They launched separate defenses. They were not even going to do the defenses together. They were just going to go after each other.
Wow. I love that they're just like no longer married. Fuck right off.
And I'm like, you are the Mannings. Like, you are still fully married right now. But Frederic decided to just blame the entire thing on Marie because he figured the press was leaning that way anyways. So he was just going to play into it.
Saw that coming.
Now, he reminded everyone that it was Marie who invited Patrick for dinner that evening, not him. He was like, it was totally her. The defense made sure she appeared to only be the money-hungry villain that she...
Yeah, money hungry.
That she really was. But like, Mungry. You knew where it was.
Of course I did.
We're just helping each other out with our made-up words today. I appreciate it. But they were really hammering in on that fact.
Yeah, because it's the truth.
Now, they brought Francis Stevens to the stand, and he was Patrick's stockbroker. And he had a very close relationship with Patrick. He identified his own signature on those shares that were found in Marie's possession. And he kept saying he was like, those are my shares that I gave Patrick. Like,
right.
I can guarantee you. So why would she fucking have those on her person when she was arrested?
Have him under her floorboards. I would be like, why are we here right now? The body was found under her floorboards in her kitchen.
It's because the two of them are going after each other, saying, I didn't do it. He did it. I didn't do it. She did it.
Right.
So now they need to be like, what the fuck? But she kept saying she only went to Patrick's place after he was missing because she was looking for him, and she kept to that story. But this whole thing shattered that completely because Francis Stevens being on the stand saying, yeah, those are the shares that I gave him. I signed those off. She only has those in her possession because she went to his home and stole them. Those weren't... That whole story she's telling about, like, I went there just to check on him, and that's shattered now. Because while she was there, she stole those shares. He didn't give them to her.
And why would you do that?
So that was just gone. But Marie's defense was that she wasn't there when Patrick was murdered. Now she's saying, I wasn't even there. And she said she was part of the cover-up. And, sure, maybe I stole some things afterwards, but, like, I didn't kill him. But then after the whole, she went to Patrick's place to steal his shit after he was murdered thing came out, she pivoted and she said, okay, but this was just Frederic's deal. And I just covered it up. So now she's like, okay, yeah, sure. I went there afterwards, whatever. Because now she's like, okay, I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to say, I didn't do the murder, but I had to cover it up because he's my husband.
And he made me.
And he made me do it. And you see, in Britain at this time, women had to obey their husband's orders. And therefore, a law was actually in place that said a wife could not be charged with being an accessory to murder if her husband committed the murder and ordered her to aid him in covering it up.
Dude.
So they were going to try to use that law.
That's a dangerous ass law.
That's a dangerous, because it was basically like...
That's a loophole.
Like, I have to be loyal to my husband first as a wife, so I had to do this. Like, by law, I am compelled to help him cover this up. But you can't charge me with accessory because by law I have to help him.
That's just giving people...
Isn't that wild?
A loophole, a murder loophole.
The loopiest loophole. But they just said, okay, that still doesn't explain why you then stole all of Patrick's shit and also invited him to dinner yourself.
Right.
Like, what was the plan there? So she then testified to the fact that Patrick O'Connor meant more to her than her husband ever did.
Oh, she is.
So she was just throwing
for the gonads
in those wounds. And she said because of this, he was murdered by Frederic, who just went nuts from jealousy. And it was all about the fact that Frederic could not handle the affair with Patrick.
That's scary because I honestly feel like if I were a juror, I would believe that.
It's a decent defense.
It is.
It really is. Like, I think I could definitely see that being a thing.
Yeah. I mean, we know it is not because we're looking at this from
No,
now.
of course not.
But imagine like sitting in a juror seat back then.
You could be like, yeah, maybe he did go crazy from jealousy.
That's a
Like, I don't
reasonable
know.
doubt right there.
But I think the fact that she has all the railway shares and she like actively ran to Edinburgh and changed her name and all that kind of goes against her.
Little damning.
Would have been a decent defense
Had she not
otherwise.
done that.
Now, this is when the newspapers went buck wild, when it started getting into the affair shit.
They said, let me get Buck in here.
Suddenly, rumors went wild that this was not just a torrid affair between Patrick and Marie. No. Now people in the papers were suggesting that there was a three-way sexual relationship happening here and that something went wrong within that complex affair.
I knew from the beginning of
Right?
this story that you were going to say that.
It was scandalous at the time on a level no one had ever seen. And no matter what, it was going to be taken as partially true because it was said.
Right.
Rumors are said, they become truth to a lot of people, which is dumb. But it's the way the world works.
That's actually the theme of my entire upcoming case.
Well, there you go. Now, of course, they all denied that. Frederic denied that. Marie denied that. That
course.
like there was no. But of course, it's just something that maintains to this day that it was like a big rumor.
I don't think that's true.
I don't think that was true at all. But I think it's like they did it just to make it even more scandalizing, you know?
Right.
Sell the tabloids of the time. So it only took the jury 45 minutes of deliberation. Both of them were found guilty of murder. Both of them were sentenced to hang.
Wow.
Yeah, which is wild. Now, later, the defense team for Marie said, which this is just funny, I think Frederic's defense team was like, yeah, we gave it a shot. Like, sure. Marie's defense team came out later and was like, oh, we never for 1 second believed she was innocent. Like, there was really nothing we could have done. Like, they were like, I'm surprised we got that far with it.
They were like, yeah, we were prepared to take a hella big L.
Yeah, they were like, we figured this was going to be a loss and that's fine.
Oh, man.
Now, during the time between trial and execution, Marie did attempt suicide in jail.
Oh.
She tried to strangle herself and pierce her windpipe with her own fingernail,
What?
but she was stopped. Oh. Yeah. She then wrote a letter to Queen Victoria asking for her.
Hey, girl, remember me?
And literally did that. Like, was like, because they did have a previous some kind of relationship, even if it was staff and queen. You know, they had known each other. So she had written to her asking for her to use her power to give her a reprieve from hanging. And Queen Victoria wrote her back because she knew who she was. And she was like, no, you're a filthy murderer and you're going to hang, you motherfucker.
Amazing.
It was literally like, I think justice is served here.
It's like I just got like a picture in my head of Ever After, like spoiler alert ahead, so like don't listen if you don't want that. But when she becomes queen and then they're like, will anybody speak for you? And then Drew Barrymore goes, I'll speak for you. It gives me that.
That's the vibes.
Yeah.
There you go.
Anybody that hasn't seen Ever After is like, what?
Yeah. Like, I'll say Bridgerton, the queen on there.
No spoilers.
No, but it's not a spoiler. But she's awesome. There's
I
that.
love her.
I love the queen on there, and I can picture her just being like, "No, you filthy murderer!
Oh, 100%.
Like, fuck off."
She would go say it in person.
100%. So her next move was to write Frederic and to try to seduce him again.
She's like, sorry that during the trial I
like-
said it was all your fault. It was just a little jokey poo.
She was like, "You know what? Everyone goes through a rough patch in their marriage,
She's
okay?
like, you know, the first year is the hardest.
It's tough." Now, when he began responding, because they started corresponding, she then was like, "Hey, baby honey sweetie pie, would you maybe want to take like all the responsibility for this?
Like, one of us might as well get out of here.
Would you think that would be
It shouldn't
something
be
you'd want to
me.
do?" And he immediately wrote her back and was like, "Fuck off, witch." And was like, "No,
I
I'm
just
not doing
picture
that."
him like with like the paper like this way, just like fuck off,
Yeah,
bitch,
just
and
like,
that's
no.
the letter she got.
Like, no, thank you. So that ended right away.
Yeah, I bet.
So November 13th, 1849, they were taken to the gallows together. Before they went to the gallows, Marie asked to have her black silk kerchief tied around her eyes because she didn't want to see the actual gallows or the crowd, which was said to have been a crowd of between 30,000 and 50,000 people waiting to watch this.
Jesus Christ, that's why everybody was sick. What are you doing in a group of 30,000 people ever?
I'm like, that's just a petri dish.
That's too many people.
Also, stop watching public executions.
That's a whole nother debate.
They did this for her. So they did do this for her. They tied the kerchief around her eyes.
Yeah.
But the crowd was a fucking crazy ass nightmare in and of itself.
Yeah.
They actually crushed a woman to death in the crowd.
Oh.
And like a few other like people got really injured. Reports said that Marie leaned over at the last second and kissed Frederic.
Weird.
And they took this as like a thing between them, like all is forgiven kind of thing, which is strange. But both were hanged on the roof of Horsemonger Lane Jail. Frederic died immediately when he was hanged. Marie strangled for a while before dying.
Oh, I feel like
Now-
that's like weirdly like just
I know.
like the universe.
Like some kind of symbolic thing. Weirdly, Herman Melville was in the crowd during this. You know, Moby Dick.
Oh.
Yeah. You know that little tale?
I think I've heard of it.
Yeah.
Like once or twice.
He watched this. He paid money for a spot on a rooftop because people would pay money to like for spots to watch this shit.
Wow.
Yeah, and he later wrote in his journal about it.
What?
He wrote, quote, "The man and wife were hung side by side, still unreconciled to each other. What a change from the time they stood after being married together."
I just
What a
love
thing
that.
to write in your journal. You're like,
Right.
what? That's fucking crazy. Imagine that.
It's like, here's the Dear Diary.
Yeah.
I've got some hot tea.
Some hot tea. And Charles Dickens actually watched this.
What is up with like literary
Now-
people in the crowd?
Charles Dickens was actually, he was never really into the public execution thing, but this really turned him against it.
Oh.
He was watching it and he actually wrote a letter to the Times speaking of how barbaric public executions were and the way the crowd reveled in it repulsed him.
Yeah, because it is gross.
I have to read the letter he wrote because it's like, yeah. He wrote, "I was witness of the execution of Horsemonger Lane this morning. I went there with the intention of observing the crowd gathered to behold it, and I had excellent opportunities of doing so at intervals all through the night and continuously from daybreak until the spectacle was over. I believe that a sight so inconceivably awful as the wickedness and levity of the immense crowd collected at that execution this morning could be imagined by no man, and could be presented in no heathen land under the sun. The horrors of the gibbet and of the crime which brought the wretched murderers to it faded in my mind before the atrocious bearing, looks, and language of the assembled spectators. When I came upon the scene at midnight, the shrillness of the cries and howls that were raised from time to time, denoting that they came from a concourse of boys and girls already assembled in the best places, made my blood run cold. As the night went on, screeching and laughing and yelling in strong chorus of parodies of melodies, with substitutions of Mrs. Manning for other things, and the like, were added to these. When the day dawned, thieves, sex workers, he said prostitutes, ruffians and vagabonds of every kind flocked onto the ground with every variety of offensive and foul behavior. Fightings, faintings, whistlings, imitations of punch, brutal jokes, tumultuous demonstrations of indecent delight when swooning women were dragged out of the crowd by police, with their dresses disordered, gave a new zest to the general entertainment. When the sun rose brightly as it did, it gilded thousands upon thousands of upturned faces, so inexpressibly odious in their brutal mirth or callousness, that a man had cause to feel ashamed of the shape he wore, and to shrink from himself as fashioned in the image of a devil. When the two miserable creatures who attracted all this ghastly sight about them were turned quivering into the air, there was no more emotion, no more pity, no more thought that two immortal souls had gone to judgment, no more restraint in any of the previous obscenities than if the name of Christ had never been heard in this world, and there were no belief among men that they had perished like beasts. I am solemnly convinced that nothing that ingenuity could devise to be done in this city, in the same compass of time, could work such ruin as one public execution does. And I stand astounded and appalled by the wickedness it exhibits. I do not believe that any community can prosper where such a scene of horror and demoralization as this, enacted this morning outside Horsemonger Lane Jail, is presented at the very doors of good citizens, and is passed by unknown and forgotten.
Beautiful.
I mean, Charles Dickens.
Yeah.
But he literally was like, this is a fucking scourge on society.
I mean,
and it needs to stop. Like,
he was not wrong.
And he was not wrong. And because of this, he became a very outspoken advocate for ending public executions completely. He was also inspired by watching the hangings of the Mannings to write the novel Bleak House, which is like a very big novel of his. One of the characters in the book, Hortense, is actually inspired by Marie Manning.
That's crazy.
Like directly. Marie actually, this is just a last little thing. Marie wore a black satin dress when she was hanged. And the fabric went like totally out of style for a while because of it. Nobody would buy it.
Oh, wow.
Sales like plunged. And she was called the woman who murdered black satin for a while.
How dare she?
Isn't that wild?
That's insane.
So they were hanged together side by side, a married couple. And I think they were only like the second married couple to be hanged.
That's
ever.
nuts. And just the fact that they gave each other a smooch before.
Yeah.
That's like so
At least a lot of
creepy.
reports say that. Of course,
Yeah,
who
you
knows?
never know.
But a lot of reports do say that happened.
So creepy.
Yeah. So that is the Bermondsey Horror.
All
and
right.
Poor Patrick O'Connor.
I know,
You know?
huh?
I just feel bad for him.
I do too. That's just sad. Like,
it is.
And just so senseless.
It is. It
like
really
we say,
is.
all murder is senseless, but some of them you're just like, really?
Especially when it's for money, it's like,
Yeah,
man.
just go make your own money. Like, just you were enjoying hanging out with the family that you worked for, so just continue working
Yeah,
for them.
exactly.
And you'll get a fancy dress out of it, and you can hang out with the queen.
Yeah, like,
now
you
she
loved
just thinks
that
you're
job.
a scoundrel,
A scoundrel. A cad.
scoundrel, or a cad.
So yeah, that was a wild old-timey one for you.
It was. Well, guys, we hope that you keep listening.
And we hope you
Keep
it
weird, but not so weird that you get two husbands and then you decide to kill one of them with the other one, and then you leave the other one because you're like, no, I don't want to be with you anymore, but let me steal all this guy's stuff and then bury him underneath my floorboards. And like, you just can't be doing that out there. Like, stop.
You can't.
Bye.
Bye.
And before you go, episodes of Morbid are available free wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to hear new episodes, though, 1 week early, you can download Amazon Music. Or if you want to hear new episodes early and ad-free, you can subscribe to Wondery Plus and Apple Podcasts or the Wondery app. Another way you can support our show is by filling out a survey at wondery.com/survey.